shocking truth about the Apostle Paul's dark past you've never known revealed at midnight. In the dead of night, beneath a sky devoid of stars, whispers filled the air, charged with an electric tension. The clock struck 12, and the world held its breath, as if waiting for revelation. Paul, a name synonymous with faith, had secrets that slithered beneath his polished rhetoric. What if the man known as an apostle was once a merciless persecutor? The kind of man who could eradicate entire families without a second thought? It sounded like a bad movie plot, but this was real life, and tonight, the truth would bleed into the light. Picture this. A slightly dilapidated town, where shadows seemed to breathe. Crumbling streets sprawled like the veins of a body long decayed. In that grim backdrop stood an ancient church, its stained glass whispering secrets of history. They said at midnight, the echo of his past could be heard, faint yet chilling, a clanking of chains followed by desperate cries. You couldn't help but feel the weight of the past pressing down, gripping your heart with icy fingers, as the rumors spread through town. Locals couldn't get enough of the bizarre tales. They claimed to hear snippets of conversations, just fragments echoing in the dark. Did you hear he was responsible for the arrest of women and children? One would gasp, eyes wide. Another would chime in, it's true. They found relics of the past in that very church. Those relics, they said, gleamed with a sinister history, revealing fragments of letters written in a scrawled, anxious hand. Each letter a fragment of lost innocence. The deeper they dug into Paul's past, the more intertwined it became with ancient mysteries. Why did he change? What drove a man to shift from hunter to shepherd? Was it guilt, regret, or something darker? The night grew heavier with questions, and the unease among the townsfolk thickened like fog. They huddled in small groups, casting furtive glances toward the church, the epicenter of this unraveling mystery. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As silence enveloped the town, a sudden clap of thunder cracked the stillness, sending shivers down spines. Some screamed, others stumbled back. In that moment of chaos, a shadow emerged from the church's doorway, tall and imposing, wrapped in darkness. Was it Paul himself, resurrected from the depths of his transgressions? The townsfolk edged closer, hearts pounding in their chests, faces painted with fear and curiosity. What truths lay behind those heavy, empathetic eyes? Would they finally learn of the horrors he had inflicted? Or were some secrets meant to die with the dark? As the figure stepped into the pale light cast by the flickering street lamp, a collective gasp swept through the crowd. The silhouette, shrouded in an aura of foreboding, loomed larger than life. Eyes widened, hearts raced. The air crackled with an unspoken dread. No one dared to move, as if the very act of breathing might shatter the moment. The figure paused, scanning the assembly with an intensity that froze time. Was it Paul, returning to confront the ghosts of his past? Or something more sinister? As the shadow sauntered closer, the townsfolk could finally see the glint of metal chains wrapped around the wrists and ankles, each clink echoing ominously, like bells tolling for the damned. Why do you cast your eyes upon me? The figure's voice was hollow and raspy, cutting through the tense silence like a jagged knife. It was not Paul. The townspeople felt a mixture of relief and betrayal course through them. They had sought answers, and yet here stood a specter of something even darker than their fears. What do you want? A brave soul shouted, as if challenging the unseen forces that were now swirling around them. Speak your intentions. The figure stepped forward, revealing a face marred by anguish and weariness. A frayed tunic hung loosely on its form. Its eyes haunted, hollow held the weight of untold stories. I come not to harm, It rasped, but to unearth the truth, murmurs erupted like wildfire. What truth? What do you know? The tension thickened, tongues wagging with fear and curiosity alike. The figure had become a vessel for their darkest thoughts, a living testament to the horrors they believed lay in the shadows of their history. With an effort, the specter raised a trembling hand, and from the depths of its ragged cloak emerged a bundle of aged parchment, stained with the essence of forgotten sorrows. This holds letters from the days of blood and terror. From when Paul was not the man you venerate, but the monster who learned his lessons from the darkness itself. The townspeople crowded closer. Fingers reached out, desperate to grasp the remnants of a truth they had long buried. Curiosity piqued. They exchanged glances filled with both hope and fear. Could this phantom be their salvation, or merely a whisper leading them deeper into despair? Who are you? One woman finally ventured, her voice quaking, catching the attention of the specter. What do you know about him? The figure hesitated, the weight of expectation heavy in the air. I was once his disciple, witnessing it all from the shadows. The hunts, the cries, the destruction. You think you know Paul, but you know nothing of the blood on his hands. Know this. Redemption comes with a price. A truth unlocked only by embracing the horror. In that moment, a chill ran through the crowd. There it was, the truth cloaked in obscurity, tempting them, compelling them to dig deeper into their faith's twisted roots. His hollow eyes settled on each of them, and the townsfolk felt their past clawing back at them, like a long-buried monster awakening in the moonlight. The question hung heavily: were they ready to confront the darkness that cradled their history? As the shadow turned to leave, the townsfolk stood frozen, hearts thumping like war drums. The promise of revelation lingered, shrouded in dread. Would they uncover the truth or succumb to the shadows of fear? With a resounding echo of chains behind him, he faded into the night, leaving only a whisper that carried on the wind. Are you willing to face what lies beneath the surface? The crowd throbbed with unease, the dark figure's chilling words hanging in the air like smoke that wouldn't dissipate. Whispers chattered like insects. Some clamored for answers while others recoiled in terror. The warmth from the nearby flickering streetlight seemed an illusion in the face of the encroaching shadows. Is this true? A man shouted, his voice cracking under the weight of his fear. Tell us what you know. Stepping forward, the brave ones sought to bridge the distance between their fragile hopes and the dread that seeped from the phantom. But behind the urgency, doubt blossomed. Questions filled the minds of many. What had Paul done? What could the specter possibly reveal that would shatter their carefully constructed lives? Suddenly, a scream sliced through the crowd, a high-pitched wail that echoed off the cobblestones. They turned to see a woman crumpled on the ground, her hands clutching at her head. No, it can't be. I won't believe it, she howled, cutting into the growing frenzy. Panic rippled through the townsfolk. A wave of unrest surged, as whispers spiraled into tumultuous cries. If he was a monster, what does that make us? The specter stood unmoving, the shadows playing tricks on their minds as it seemed to swell and contract with the rising tension. You must choose, it rasped, its eyes piercing with an otherworldly glare. Embrace the truth, or remain shackled by your ignorance. Their hearts beat in synchrony, a drumroll of fear that seemed to echo through the stillness of the night. Some felt frozen in place, rooted by indecision, while others surged forward with vigor, desperate for the revelations that might set them free. The figure opened the weathered letters in its hand, revealing words long buried, ink darkened with time. These words scream of his sins, it whispered, motioning dramatically to the parchment. Read them. Let the past seep into your souls, for only in understanding can you find the path toward redemption. Redemption? An elder woman scoffed, pushing through the horde. You mean to say we can forgive a murderer? Forgiveness is not for the innocent, the specter replied, its voice dropping to a haunting tone. It is for the soul seeking closure. Everyone fell into an uneasy silence, grappling with the weight of acceptance as the specter continued, weaving tales of blood and betrayal into the fabric of their memories. With every word, shadows of the past began to dance around them, twisting into the shapes of their loved ones, their fears, A young man stared into the figure's hollow eyes. What are you asking of us? Are you asking us to live with the ghosts? Only if we are to truly exist, the figure answered, a knowing smile cracking its weary face. The past has a way of haunting us until we confront it. This night holds more than just dark secrets. It contains the power to rewrite your story. What do you mean? Another voice called out, desperation leaking into the air. What will happen if we refuse? The specter stepped back slowly, chains clinking, as it began to melt into the shadows. Choose wisely, for the truth buried in these letters shall either bring you peace or plunge you into despair. But mark my words, the time for reckoning is nigh. As it vanished completely, an overwhelming sense of dread flooded the gathering, where nothing but questions remained in its wake. What would they uncover? Would the conclusion bring them peace or destruction? Through the distorted haze of emotions, one truth lingered. The night was just beginning, and in its depths lay horrifying mysteries waiting to unfold, threatening to consume them whole. Would they dare to seek the truth that may shatter everything they held dear? The silence hung heavy, a thick coat of dread blanketing the crowd as shadows flickered under the dim light. Faces twisted in confusion and fear, each person grappling with the specter's haunting invitation. What do you think it means? A voice whispered from the back, barely cutting through the tension. The question bounced between clusters of fearful townsfolk, sparking a wildfire of speculation. I don't know, it can't be true, right? A woman replied, her hands trembling as she clutched her purse tightly, as if it were a shield against the mysteries closing in on them. Across the cobblestones, another young man spoke up, fear crackling in his voice. If Paul can be a monster, what does that make all of us? His words fell like stones, creating ripples of anxiety that spread through the crowd as they stood in the unsettling quiet. The gentle rustle of paper broke through, drawing attention back to where the specter had stood. A gust of wind swooped in, lifting the letters the figure had dropped. They danced through the air like lost spirits before settling around the feet of the crowd. A brave girl, no more than 16, took a step forward. We need to read them. If there's a chance to understand, to know what he did, we can't just ignore it. Her voice cracked, but determination lit up her eyes. Others hesitated, exchanging anxious glances. The taste of uncertainty clung to the air. Was knowledge truly power, or merely a weapon waiting to be used against them? Another figure emerged from the outskirts, an older man with weathered skin and a noticeable limp. He shuffled forward with urgency, propelled by the weight of buried memories. Paul was my best friend, he cried out, voice shaking. No matter what he did, he deserves to be remembered. His fervor pushed the boundaries of their anxiety, igniting an internal conflict that spiraled within each person. A disheveled woman nearby shivered. What if we find something we can't live with? Exactly. Knowledge can tear families apart. A man shouted, crossing his arms defiantly. But the girl, resolute, picked up one of the letters and unfolded it slowly. The crowd leaned in, hearts racing. Each crack of paper echoed like a heartbeat in the darkness. What does it say? Someone urged, desperation leaking into their tone as she read aloud. The chilling words poured forth, spilling secrets long hidden in the shadows. I beg of you, forgive me. The ink-drenched paper trembled in her grip, and the crowd gasped, a collective intake of breath. What was he begging for? Another voice whispered, fear creeping back in, hands rising to cover mouths, eyes wide. The girl continued, her voice firm but wavering. I've done terrible things, all in the name of revenge. The crowd surged, an urgent wave of emotion, confusion, and despair washing over them. What kind of revenge? The girl faltered, feeling the weight of their eager eyes. No, it doesn't, he say, but her voice faltered under the pressure, cracking. Whatever he did, it hurt people. An argument erupted, bitter and frenzied. We have to confront the truth. We can't face this. Stop reading. Voices clashed, competing for supremacy until suddenly, a gasp silenced everyone. In the corner of the crowd stood a figure, pale and drawn, a woman with wide, haunted eyes. I know what Paul did, she whispered, trembling as every eye turned toward her. Shock rippled through the crowd like a lightning bolt. What could she possibly know that could change everything? Who was she, and how was she connected to the unfolding revelation? Tell us, someone urged, their voice hanging on the precipice of fear as she took a step forward. The air thick with tension and unshed tears. The crowd held its collective breath in unison, hanging on the edge of a knife. What dark truth lurked just beneath their feet, ready to unleash chaos worse than the shadows that swallowed the night? And just as the clock struck midnight, her lips parted. Paul, he made choices, dangerous ones. Her voice was barely above a whisper, yet it sliced through the anxious murmurs of the crowd like a knife. Faces twisted with anticipation, eyes wide, every heart beating faster. Who are you? A voice called out, sharp and accusatory. How do you know this? The woman's hands trembled near her sides, skin pale, betraying every emotion she struggled to contain. I was once close to him. He confided in me. I saw the darkness grow in him. I never thought. She paused, swallowing hard, as if the very words threatened to choke her. How could you let this happen? If you knew what he was becoming, why didn't you stop him? A man thrust his finger toward her, rage mixing with palpable fear. No. She stepped back, her breath hitching. You don't understand. It was too late by the time I realized I was just as trapped. We all were. The crowd surged with fervor, energy sparking like a live wire in the tense air. What did he do? A voice cried, desperation clawing at the edges. Tell us. I wish I could, but the details, they're twisted. I can't. The woman's voice trembled, frustration and regret swimming in her gaze. He was after someone he blamed for everything that went wrong in his life. Confusion blanketed the crowd, whispers rebounding off one another. Who? She hesitated, the weight of the secret almost too much to bear. I can't just say it. You have to understand the consequences. Paul wanted revenge on them. Waves of murmurs swept through the crowd like a rolling fog, hopelessness setting in. What do you mean by them? Who? Her eyes darted around, taking in their faces anger, fear, curiosity mingling in a dangerous dance. People who hurt him, people who took things from him. A pause, and then she took a trembling breath. But it's not as simple as that. It never is. What he did involved more than just anger. It reached into the very soul of our town. The fear among them doubled, eyes widening with every chilling revelation. Someone screamed, "Get to the point already." The more he spiraled into darkness, the more people got hurt. It didn't stop with just one person. She took a step closer, proximity diffusing some of the tension but amplifying the unease. Every secret buried, every wound left open. Something terrible happened, and it was all because of him. What was awakening inside? A chilling breeze swirled through the square, and for a moment, silence reigned. Everyone was processing. Then a woman grasped the calloused arms of an older man beside her. But he was our neighbor. He couldn't just be what? The woman cut her off, her voice rising. A monster? He was a man just like the rest of us. But you can't ignore the truth. The more you bury these things, the darker they grow. The question is, how did it manifest for Paul? Words began to fly, arguing about the depths of evil and innocence. But suddenly, the woman shouted, I have something. I found something that proved it, all the clues, but it's gonna lead you somewhere you might not want to go. Gasps echoed, swallowed by the thick, stifling air. What kind of clues? Someone shouted, barely registered over cacophony. The letters. They were just the start. There's a deeper story. One that could change everything. You need to see it. A wave of uncertainty swept through the crowd again. Fear creeping back like a shadow. Where can we find this proof? The brave girl asked, her courage shining amidst the chaos. The woman's gaze grew distant, filled with a knowledge that seemed to weigh down her spirit. The old forgotten well at the edge of town. I know what's down there. But what you'll find may destroy what little peace you think you have. So many eyes looked on her with fear, disbelief, and an eerie blend of hope. What horrors lurked in that forgotten place? As she took a breath, determination etching lines across her face, the crowd collectively held its breath, teetering on the razor's edge of their own convictions, consumed by a decision that could change their lives forever. And with a pulse of perilous energy crackling in the air, she continued, "Are you willing to uncover what Paul tried to hide even if it shatters the town?" A heavy stillness fell over the crowd, a collective breath held tightly in desperation. The words lingered, almost palpable, wrapping around everyone like a suffocating blanket. Each face was a mask of uncertainty, eyes darting, minds racing with the dread of what might come next. Suddenly, the air crackled with a sense of urgency. "Let us go to the well," a voice shouted, breaking the spell of silence. It was young and determined, igniting a spark of reckless courage within some. Yet, others hesitated, glancing around with uncertainty. The woman, still standing resolute in the front, looked beyond the crowd as if gazing into a dark, twisted future that only she could see. "You don't understand what you're asking for. Could consume you." But the lure of the unknown was intoxicating. One by one, people began to move, driven by adrenaline and fear, despite her warnings. They snatched handheld flashlights and crude weapons, a shovel, a pick, whatever they could find to confront their fears. The path to the well was narrow, flanked by overgrown weeds that seemed to snicker at their anxiety. The sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting eerie shadows across the old dirt road, a foreboding prelude to what lay ahead. "Are we really doing this? What if Paul did something horrible?" Someone whispered, voice quivering with doubt. "Don't be a coward," came another voice, louder this time, a sharp counterpoint to the creeping fear. "We have to know the truth. It's the only way to save our town." Yet, even in the bravado, fear seeped through. Eyes wide, hearts racing, they trudged toward the edge of town, where darkness pooled like ink against the dusky sky. As they approached the well, a foul smell wafted through the air, a mix of decayed leaves and something far worse, clawing at their senses. The well sat forlorn, wooden planks rotting, the stone structure crumbling. "This is it," someone muttered, barely able to steady their voice. The woman stepped up to the edge, peering down into the abyss. "What you find down there challenges everything you thought you knew about Paul." Her voice trembled, as if she knew beyond words what horrors lay waiting in the darkness. "Enough talking. If we're going down, let us hurry up," a man shouted angrily, gripping a flashlight with white knuckles. With a nod, they shone their lights into the depths, the beams winking back like the eyes of unseen creatures. The darkness felt alive, wrapping around them, whispering forbidden secrets. Slowly, someone lowered a makeshift rope. "Who's going first?" Nervous laughter chased the sighs of dread. "Not me, but someone better do it before I change my mind." As they debated, an overwhelming noise erupted. A loud splash echoed from below, drowning out their fears and plunging the conversation into silence. Someone had slipped, the sound resonating like a death knell. Panic surged through them. "What was that?" they all exclaimed, looking at one another, eyes wide. Before anyone could answer, a low moan emerged from the well, cold and sinister, seeping up from the darkness like an angry ghost. "Do you hear that?" A voice quivered. The bravado melted away, raw fear taking its place. They huddled closer, hearts galloping, every muscle tensed. "We can't turn back now. We need to uncover the truth." The woman's resolve broke through, determination gripping her as tightly as fear held the others. But just then, another sound echoed. A soft, almost pleading voice whispered, "Help me." The group froze, horror mixed with intrigue in their wide eyes. "Who was down there? Are we really going down there?" someone finally asked, dread creeping back in. "What if it's a trap?" another cried, but even as they questioned, the pull of the unknown beckoned. Their curiosity burned brighter than their fears. And with that single, haunting whisper, they stepped closer to the edge, toes curling over the stagnation of past secrets that refused to die. What would they find in the darkness? Would the truth shatter their world, or reveal a path to salvation? "Let us go," someone shouted, pushing the first foot over the edge. And, just like that, the journey into the unknown began. But little did they realize, Something was waiting for them, something that would turn their suspicions into nightmares they could never escape. A heart-stopping silence enveloped the group as the first foot dangled over the edge, poised above the churning darkness. The faint flicker of flashlights barely penetrated the abyss, their beams dancing against the damp stones. That whispered plea echoed again. "Help me." It was raw, desperate, wrapping around their hearts like a noose. The woman didn't hesitate. "I'll go," she declared, scrunching her eyes shut as if to steel herself against the fear that gripped them all. She grabbed the rope, gripping it with both hands, trembling yet determined. "I have to see, I have to know." "Wait," someone shouted, lunging forward, but it was too late. With a surge of adrenaline, she began her descent, disappearing into the swirling black. The group nodded together at the edge of the well, breaths held as they leaned over to watch her vanish into the depths. A collective fear gripped them tighter than the rope she held. Moments later, a soft thud resonated from below, a sound that crawled into their skin. "Did you hear that?" one woman whispered, her eyes darting frantically, searching the faces around her for an answer. "I did," a man said, voice shaky. "What if it's a trap? What if she needs help?" But the woman below had already begun to call out again. Her voice strained. "I'm okay. Just keep the rope tight. I can feel something cold. Keep talking. Can you see anything?" The man shouted, his heart racing, each beat echoing like a drum. There was no answer for a moment, just the silence stretching, filling with dread. Then, the rope jerked violently, nearly slipping from their grasp, sending shudders through the group. "What was that?" someone screamed, panic lacing their voice. "I don't know. Pull her up," another shouted, their eyes wide with fear. They began to yank on the rope, frantic hands clawing at it, hearts pounding against their chests. The woman's voice echoed again, sounding more urgent now. "I see something. It's like a figure." "What figure? What do you see?" came the desperate calls as they struggled to pull her back. As they hoisted her upward, confusion clouded their minds. She emerged gasping, drenched in sweat, her eyes wide with horror and something else understanding. "It's worse than I thought. You have to believe me," she managed to stammer, breathless. "What did you see?" they implored, digging fingers into her arms, pushing for answers. There's a body," she gasped, trembling. "And there are papers, his papers. Paul's papers." Gasps rippled through the group. Chills cascaded down their spines, overwhelming the air with a suffocating tension. This was no ordinary unveiling. "What do you mean, Paul's papers?" "What papers?" "The kind that tells stories," she said, eyes glistening with both fear and an urgent need to reveal. "Stories we're not meant to know." "Then let us go. We have to see for ourselves," someone cried, unshackling the tension as adrenaline surged again within the group. They attached another rope. Flashlights flickered with renewed purpose as more of them prepared to descend. The darkness seemed to breathe, shadows swirling, almost beckoning them. But just as they were about to move, an ear-splitting shriek blasted from the depths, followed by a haunting wail. "Get back. It's not just a body. It's alive." Blood ran cold through their veins. Dread washed over them like ice water, and panic lanced through the air. "What does that mean?" someone screamed, voice cracking. "Whatever's down there, it doesn't want to be found," the woman shouted, backing away from the edge, her face a canvas of terror. "We have to think this through." But curiosity gripped them in a vice. The chance to uncover Paula's secrets, to confront whatever horrors lay hidden below, ignited a fire in their hearts. With only the glimmer of flashlights to guide their resolve, they teetered at the edge, caught between the taste of fear and the thirst for knowledge. As they readied themselves for the descent, a voice, a soft, chilling echo, rose once more from the depths. "Help me, you don't know what you're doing." The lines separating truth from doom blurred into a haze of intrigue and fear. What awaited them below the body? The secrets, the truth. Could what lured them to the well be their salvation or their ultimate destruction? The air was thick with apprehension as the group stood at the brink, minds racing with the implications of what lay beneath. The woman who had ventured down was trembling, her hands still gripped tightly, the rope coiling around her fingers like a serpent. The unwelcome shiver of dread coursed through them all. Yet curiosity clawed at their insides, begging them to press forward. Should we really do this? One of the men finally breathed, the question hanging heavily in the air. But the fire in their eyes said otherwise. They exchanged glances, every face reflecting a cocktail of fear and determination. Who was ready to risk everything for the truth? I can't leave it like this, the woman gasped, her voice shaking but resolute. Paul is down there. I felt him, I felt his pain. The group whipped their heads back towards the well, the darkness seeming to pulse with malignant energy. Then let us go, one of them said firmly. We have to know what really happened. They fastened the ropes again, their hands dancing with urgency. Foreboding words echoed in the back of their minds, but it was drowned out by the collective need to uncover whatever secrets waited in the shadows below. Remember, if anything feels wrong, we pull you back up. Okay? The man shouted down to her as the others prepared to descend. Just trust me, came her shaky reply. With every handhold, their hearts raced faster. And just as they began their descent, the terrifying wail sliced through the air again, now sharper, closer, more insistent. You don't understand. Help me. The voice was no longer pleading but filled with desperation and anger. Their lights trembled against the darkness, and, for reasons beyond comprehension, they pressed on. Deeper and deeper they went, the damp chill of the well engulfing them. The walls felt alive, breathing as if trying to warn them to turn back. Each foot down sent ripples of fear crashing over their limbs. The flashlight beams darted wildly, illuminating bizarre markings carved into the stone walls. Symbols of the past? Or something more sinister? Wait, one of them whispered, their voice echoing in the stillness. What if this is some kind of ritual? The others exchanged fearful glances, the blood draining from their faces. The thoughts spun wildly like an out-of-control carousel. Then it hit them, a small shiver of panic, a nagging doubt. What if it's not just Paul? What if it's more? Silence hung heavy for just a moment until the darkness roared back, and suddenly, they were engulfed in a cacophony of howls and whispers, like a tormented chorus. Get out! You're not welcome here! The woman at the end of the rope screamed, a terrifying shriek that echoed off the rock walls. Something's coming. Pull me up now. But their hands felt heavy, frozen with fear, as the sounds of something large stirring in the depths grew closer, shattering the last semblance of bravery. Do it! A voice yelled, snapping them from their stupor. Heart pounding, they grabbed the rope and began to hoist her up as she cried out from below. Hurry! Just as they started to see her face emerging through the darkness, a chilling shadow darted past her, the very shape of nightmares made flesh. They gasped, hearts skidding into their throats. In that fleeting moment, the rope slipped. The sudden jolt nearly sent a few of them tumbling over the edge. What happened? Someone shouted, panic turning to chaos as the shadows erupted into a terrible, haunting cacophony. Help me, please! She screamed again, but this time her voice warped with fear. They extended their hands to her frail lifelines, wrestling against the vast chasm below. One of them recoiled, choking on adrenaline-fueled terror. We can't go back down there. The darkness finally surrendered its secrets. Her face was twisted in horror. It's worse than you can imagine. No one leaves this place. And then, the ground shook beneath them, a deep rumble echoing from the depths. With one last haunting cry, the shadows below surged, and the surface world slowly faded from view. As the darkness swallowed their last connection to reality, one question burned deep in every heart. Were they too late to save her? Or was it already too late for all of them? The rope lay slack in the hands of the group, their hearts pounding like war drums as the echoes of her screams twisted in the air. A moment stretched into eternity, each second thick with a chilling weight. They glanced at one another, the dawning realization creeping in. What had they unleashed? Go back. We need to get out now. One of the men shouted, his voice trembling as he stumbled backward away from the edge. Wait, someone else pleaded. We can't just leave her. But the ground shuddered again, vicious tremors pulsing beneath them. The walls of the well echoed back a sinister rhythm, vibrating with an energy that felt alive. Each jolt felt like an omen, a warning that clawed at their sanity. "Did you see that thing?" one woman whispered, her face pale. It was right there. As if in agreement, the darkness quivered and swirled, formless shadows threatening to close in like hungry wolves, ready to consume them one by one. The air crackled angrily, carrying whispers they couldn't understand. They ranged from velvety, alluring tones to sharp, scornful taunts, pulling them apart at the seams. "Let us put our heads together," a brave soul suggested, hands trembling but eyes fierce. They huddled closer, exchanging skeptical glances tinged with dread. "We need a plan, we can't just stand here. Then let us find a way to pull her up." Another voice broke through the haze of panic, but uncertainty weighed on their resolve. Could they reach her without paying the price? One man firmly gripped the rope. "We have to risk it. We can't leave her." He glanced at the gaping abyss below, imagining the horrors lurking in its depths. "Do you think it's her?" the woman asked, voice small. "Or something else entirely?" "Whatever it is," he said, choking on his fear, "we can't let it take any more of us." With a surge of adrenaline, the group nodded their resolve and began threading their hands into the rope again. On 3, the countdown echoed ominously in the silence. "Take a deep breath." 1, 2, but just before they shouted 3, a furious roar erupted from the well, making them leap back. The shadows surged forward, darting like barbed serpents, brushing against their legs with chilling caresses. A tendril of darkness lunged out, pooling around their feet in a grotesque display. "What is that? Is it alive?" Fear painted their faces, primal instincts fighting against the overwhelming compulsion to flee. "No!" shouted the man, grounding himself in fear's face. "We're in this together." Desperate for answers, they turned their eyes back to the well. "We have to get her before it takes her. We have to do this." As they attempted to gather the rope once more, a ghastly figure materialized from the depths, a haunting visage that sent cold ripples through their veins. "Help me, help us," a voice, twisted and mournful, slithered up from the dark, pulling at their very souls. The walls of the cavern seemed to convulse, and the markings they had glimpsed before glimmered ominously, glowing with an ancient energy. It was as if the well itself was alive, imbued with malice. "Stop!" one cried, unable to tear their eyes away from the eerie display. What if they're all down there? What if this is a trap? Yet, even in the face of uncertainty, they battled the fear that threatened to suffocate them. They needed her, they needed the truth. But as the shadows writhed and contorted, becoming grotesque shapes, the air thickened with an undeniable force. "You cannot save her," the voice taunted, the words echoing in their minds like a taunting riddle. Time slipped, twisting their decision-making into chaos. Would they risk everything to pull her up? Or was it time to abandon hope? Sudden stillness gripped them, and then a deafening rumble shattered their thoughts. And another form emerged, larger and more grotesque than before, crawling into their world. "Fate has come for you," all the well's mouth gaped wider, as if beckoning them toward a destiny they could not avoid. As they stood on the edge of despair and necessity, their resolve began to falter. The shadows shifted, whispering dark promises of truth and horror alike, and one thought echoed louder than all the rest. How deep does the darkness go? And who, if anyone, would emerge alive? The atmosphere hung heavy as the looming darkness bled out, saturating the air with thick dread. The group swayed on the brink of fear and resolve. The well pulsed like a living entity, demanding their submission while threatening to crush their very souls. They could still hear her desperate cries, haunting and pleading, as they faced the abyss. For every breath they took, the shadows crept closer, serpentine and insatiable. "Don't give in!" shouted the man gripping the rope, heart hammering as thick shadows twisted below. "We're not leaving her." Together, they drew in a collective breath, hearts synchronized in grim determination. They had come this far. They could not turn back now. They prepared to heave the rope again, to pull their sister in arms from the deathly jaws of the unknown. "Help me!" Her pleas slashed the air, twisting through their chests like a knife. "Please, I can feel them, they're reaching for me." The shadows writhed as if summoned by her despair, dark shapes wriggling, hungry. "Now!" someone cried, and they yanked on the rope with all their might, voices united in an urgent crescendo. "We're coming." With a frantic push, they raised the trembling woman from the depths. Up she came, dragging the weight of secrets and horrors tightly bound in the creases of her skin. She gasped as she breached the surface, face wild with terror, but with relief flooding through her veins. She cried, "I saw them. I saw everything." Shadows lingered, snaking closer as she was hoisted up. Her eyes widened, filled with panic. "It's not just Paul's secrets, it's terrifying. Tell us," the brave girl urged, her voice breaking in the tension. "I can't," came the hurried reply, heart racing. "It's like a net that envelopes this town. Terrible things are happening again. Because of him," gasps echoed. They anchored their resolve against the tempest around them, desperate to grasp what lay hidden behind the veil of fear. "What do you mean?" a man demanded, his voice a trembling thread in the clamor. "We need to know." The darkness seemed to sigh, a slow, cold breath in response. The shadows reared back as if in contemplation, coiling tightly around the edges of their fear. "The well, it traps more than just souls. It harbors intent vengeance." Her eyes reflected the flickering lights, hardening with urgency. "We must destroy it." An outburst of gasps rippled through the crowd, fear clashing with grim resolution. Hesitation became palpable, but she pressed on. Whatever Paul did awakened something ancient. Whatever down there wants revenge. It's too late for him, but if we don't act fast, it'll claim us all. They took a step back, the swirling shadows licking at their ankles, drawing them closer to despair. "How do we destroy it?" someone called, eyes darting back to the gaping well. "There has to be a way," she shouted, catching hands with palpable strength. "We have to sever its ties. We bring it his letters. They might hold the keys to breaking this curse, this insanity." "Might?" someone cried, skepticism threading through desperation. "No, it must." She shined a flashlight into the well's depths, reflecting flickers of shifting horror down below. "His past, his sins must be laid bare. We pull it into the light. Only in facing it can we bury it deep and pound the final nails in this coffin of shadows." A ripple of determination surged through the crowd. Together, they gathered the tattered relics of Paul's past, the ink-stained letters now trembling in their hands. The weight of the truth anchored them, blending fear with hope as they inched toward the well's brim. It was time to confront the thing that fed on secrecy and shadows, time to illuminate the past. With one final push, they cried in unison, "For the truth," as they cast the letters into the well. Their messages burst into flames, illuminating the dark as the fire descended into the cold maw below. A tempest roared, shadows howled in defections, and the ground trembled as the flames licked hungrily at the ancient darkness, consuming the sins of the man who had borne them. The air crackled, a palpable charge that sizzled with a promise of reckoning. Dark shapes writhed, thrashed, roared in an evocation of long-buried fears, finally breaking free in an explosion of light and sound. The shadows receded as screams morphed into wails of ancient apprehensions spilled out from the well, rumbling all around them before collapsing inward as if the very fabric of darkness had been undone. The well's heavy silence interrupted by a final gasp, a surrender to truth and acceptance. Shivering, the townsfolk blinked into the new dawn, the shadows fading into the ether. The weight against their hearts dissipated as they looked around at one another, faces illuminated with newfound truths, scars borne openly where shame once resided. They knew the ghosts of their past, now laid bare, were essential in forging a way forward. Paul was gone, his darkness quelled, and in its place, a thin thread of unity emerged. Together, they stepped out of the shadows, hearts lighter, grounded in understanding. They had confronted the horror within their history, and in doing so had embraced the fragility of their humanity. They breathed in the dawn's fresh air, nourishing hope with every inhale, prepared to face what the future held, embracing their collective truth. But as they turned back toward the remnants of the well, the creeping sentiment of urgency beckoned just beneath the surface. Some secrets are never entirely buried, and every ending is merely a beginning. Subscribe immediately to this channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now. It feeds the algorithm and fuels our journey together. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now.